wanted to talk about one concept was that people always they don't understand what is suffering. It means that they think suffering is a bad thing. Like whole society thinks that suffering is a bad thing. But if you don't suffer, what happens internally?
You keep it, you bottle it inside, you keep it to yourself, and...
But look at it this way. Say for example, a soldier goes into war.
Yeah.
Originally he was just a regular weak kid in school, right? But then he got conscripted into the war. And suddenly what happens to this person? He becomes hardened, stronger. So now, the more he suffers, the less he actually feels, because he's strong enough to endure it, right? So a person who actually lives in an environment where he becomes weaker and weaker, suffering feels strong more. So a person who's suffering the same as another person, as a warrior, and a person in society, they're suffering the same. But what's happening is that the soldier doesn't feel the suffering as suffering, because he's strong enough to endure it. So what happens is that you need suffering. So what happens is that, okay, look at it this way. If there was a situation where a person, or you, or anyone, and they fell in love, okay? So what's happening is that a day earlier, before they broke up, he was in bliss, happiest guy in the world. Or maybe a week earlier or a month earlier, depending on when he got bored of the situation. But then, right after the breakup, it's all gone to shit. It's over, okay? So it's not like a breakup where they're getting back together. So that person feels like shit. What's happening is that in his body produces serotonin, oxytocin, all these pleasure chemicals.
Yeah.
And it's still producing them, but because he's in such an unhappy state, it's using up the serotonin and oxytocin so fast. So fast.
It can be replenished,
It can't be replenished quick enough. So what's happening is that in 5 minutes of the day, he uses it all up. Whereas he has still another 23 hours and 55 minutes to go. So now, during that time, he's suffering. Whereas before that situation, that 5 minutes of serotonin and oxytocin was enough for the whole day.
Yeah.
Now it's not. So now he's in that shitty, depressed state because he's grown weaker. Right?
Yeah.
And that's an emotional weakness. It's not necessarily, say, a physical weakness. You could have a warrior maybe going through the same situation because he's not emotionally strong.
I mean, think about chemical imbalances. Technically, they are physical. They're physically the reason why you're feeling that way.
Yeah.
I mean, you say emotionally, but technically...
It's physically. It's chemicals.
Chemicals, yeah.
At the end of the day, so it's all physical. Okay, by meaning even emotionals, everything emotional, chemical, biological, is still part of the physical world.
Yeah.
So, but putting that aside, like in terms of a scientific analysis, I'm saying in terms of, it is a scientific analysis, but I'm saying that what's happening is that his body isn't ready for these situations. You know what I'm saying? It's that if you lived in a harsh, if I lived in poverty my entire life, and then I moved somewhere else where there's poverty, it's the same shit. It doesn't make any difference. But say I was a billionaire. I was Bill Gates, I had all the money in the world, I could do anything whenever I want, and then I was thrown in poverty.
Yeah.
I would find that so distressful that it would take a very long time for me to adapt to that new environment. Right? Yeah. Otherwise I might end up dying, because the emotional pain is so much. It's just chemical, of course. It's a chemical reaction. The body's been depleting.
Throwing a fish from salt water into fresh water.
Exactly.
You would have to acclimate to the newer conditions, but until that happens, it's going through a ton of stress.
Well, exactly. It's just it's not adapted to the new environment. So the thing is that what's happening now today, I think, in the modern world, is that people have become life has become so easy because of technology and just basically an easier life, moral values and so forth. And not only that, physiologically, people don't have to do anything. Like, everything is provided for to the point where there's no reason to be strong. So we're becoming weak because we have no reason to be strong. There's no need to. Most of the stuff is provided for. So what's happening is that weakness, we're growing internally weak. And so as we grow internally weak, when bad things do arise, We can't handle them so quickly. We find them to be stressful.
Yeah.
We get anxiety, depressed. People like nowadays, people are on antidepressants on levels never before, of course, in history, because
for minor things as well.
Minor things, they're not even important. They're crying over the most simplest things that people used to like just shake off in the old days.
Yeah.
It'd be nothing. And what's happening is that we are getting weaker and weaker. Human beings in general getting weaker and weaker, and they're looking for answers through moral values, which are completely just making it worse, and medication.
That's like also the byproduct of removing all the stressors in life.
Yeah, we are removing all the
When you
stresses.
remove stressors in life, your body is not able to handle, and even the slightest amount of stress will set your body off into panic mode, right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, yeah. 100% true. And this is going to be more and more the situation as we move on forward. As life getting, people are making more and more laws and more scientific inventions that are making life easier and easier and easier, to the point where we're basically going to become degenerate. Like, we're going to be sickly. We're not going to be suffering over other people.
Yeah.
We're not suffering because other people are causing this. This is all internal. We're causing this within ourselves because we're growing weak. We can't even blame anybody on this subject. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.